Welcome to Pregnancy Help Podcast. I'm Christine Grimmett, and I'm joined by Heartbeat International's president, Jor-El Godsey. And our guest today is Missy Stone. She is the CEO for Reprotection. Now, this is an organization that will be exhibiting at our upcoming Heartbeat Annual Conference. So if you're at a conference in Jacksonville, Florida, make sure you stop by the Reprotection booth there and say hello to Missy. So she became involved in the pro-life movement when she was just 14 after attending the March for Life. She has a degree in political science. She joined Students for Life of America in 2013 and has just worked with over 1,000 student groups. So she's very familiar with teaching the pro-life message, especially to young people. She served on the board of Choices Women's Center in Fredericksburg, Virginia. So she's no stranger to the pregnancy center world as well. She's been featured in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Christian Broadcasting Network, and other media outlets. And now she's helped launch the Reprotection organization in 2019 and is now the CEO as of 2021. So we welcome Missy with us and excited to hear what she has for us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. It's one of those things where we were in DC together and at the same meeting, and got connected. And it was like, hey, you need to come visit Heartbeat. And so we just had a great time visiting and hopefully getting to know more about Heartbeat and our some of our key leadership. And we were very, very excited to hear about what's happening at Reprotection because it's been around for so long. It feels like I realize it started in the COVID years, right? So so the COVID years feel like forever. But in fact, it's a crazy time to launch a brand new ministry, but such a needed outreach. Yeah. Explain, how did all that come together?
So a couple years ago, a woman in Indiana, just a pro-life person who was sitting in her office next to an abortion facility, noticed that the abortion facility didn't have a wheelchair ramp and women were stumbling out of it after their appointments. And she thought, that's strange. Shouldn't buildings have wheelchair ramps? Aren't there regulations that say you have to be accessible? Turns out this building was in fact in violation of ADA code. And so she filed a complaint. But that started a bigger conversation about abortion facilities and their ability or willingness to obey standards, regulations that are on the books already. We have amazing legislators that are passing pro-life legislation and to regulate abortion facilities to the same standard that other medical centers have to follow. But what we were finding was there was a lack of enforcement.
And these are the standards that are really designed to protect women.
Yes.
And to actually facilitate positive healthcare.
Yes.
These are not, too often these kind of laws get labeled as kind of antagonistic to the abortion industry. That's because, frankly, they've been given a lot of leeway, political leeway. But these are really intended to help women and to have the same, just like you said, the same type of things that they should expect in any type of environment where their health is involved.
Mm-hmm. These are basic standards like having licensed staff performing the duties that they are should be performing, building codes to make sure a gurney can go through your hallways.
Now that's important because the whole Godsey story really exposed that particular example of, if you've seen the footage from that or the pictures from that, this is an older building with multiple stairways and very small hallways, which was then littered with many things. Like the idea that someone would be served in an emergency situation was extremely hindered and hampered. And that was one of the many big things that were wrong with the Godsey case.
Correct. And so what we are asking these facilities to do are just meet the same standards that other surgical centers and medical centers have to meet. They have to sterilize their equipment. They have to make sure their narcotics are stored properly. They have to have the proper licenses to do what they need to do, a licensed lab tech, licensed nurses, whatever they are, because they love to use people who do not have proper credentials.
Also a reality that we learned from the Godsey experience.
Correct.
I appreciate that the story started with Kathy, I think, right?
Yes.
Good friend Kathy Humbarger, who's been doing this for a number of years.
Yes.
learned a lot of amazing things. Is really one of the inspirations behind Reprotection as a whole. But we really saw it hit the news in the biggest way with the whole Gosnell experience about all these various things where he was employing people who were not licensed or credentialed in any way to do what they were ultimately doing. And so it's one of those things where we need somebody watching out for this.
Well, so what's so interesting about the Gosnell case is that people did file complaints, and the fault really lies with the Pennsylvania Health Department because they didn't want to regulate the abortion facility. So the laws were on the books. He was breaking the laws, but because the abortion industry creates such a fuss anytime they are regulated, agencies don't want to touch them.
By fuss, you mean that they put their political money behind their own political candidates?
They sue.
They sue. Okay, fair enough. They countersue or so that they have a lot of power.
They have a lot of power, and that has scared regulatory agencies. And so people had complained about Gosnell, but what ended up getting him was the DEA. It was a drug bust that went in there, and then all of a sudden they realized they described it as a house of horrors because the Pennsylvania Department of Health dropped the ball. And so that is a perfect example of why we have to now come in and say, how are these facilities breaking the law? Take it to the correct agencies and then hold them accountable, hold these agencies' feet to the fire and say, you need to enforce the laws that are on the books.
So from a pregnancy center standpoint, this is kind of interesting because we're the ones that get tagged with being so-called fake clinics.
Right.
And yet they're the ones that are often violating actual laws on the books. I mean, we talk about like, look, even if in most instances, even if a pregnancy center wanted to be licensed as a clinic, there is no such thing. It all happens under the licensure of the medical director or the medical professionals that are involved. Often in most states, there is no specific license to become a clinic. It happens in a different pattern. And yet here we're talking about actual laws that are crafted to basically make sure that the abortion provider is practicing good safe practices for the sake of their patients. These are the ones that are not being followed.
Correct. I mean, the irony is not lost on many of us that they say, women's healthcare, safe, legal abortion. And in the cases that we deal with, these women are not safe. They are not safe. And we had this case in Florida. Our first abortion closure was in September of 2021, where a woman came running out of the facility screaming, "Call 911," because she was so afraid for her life. That was not safe healthcare for her. And so we have to step in and say, how can we hold these abortion facilities accountable? And when they will not meet those standards, because they won't, because it costs money. And
hurts their bottom line.
It hurts their bottom line. Can we ultimately close them based on their misdeeds? And so that's the goal of Reprotection, is to help the pro-life communities, the pro-life advocates on the ground, close the abortion facilities in their communities.
And so you're there to receive the intel that may come from sidewalk counselors, advocates, that they're out there and they're observing, like the example you gave, observing that this is not being followed or that scenario happens, or, God forbid that she's running out of the abortion clinic, calling for 911 help in that instance. I know we talked about that earlier when we had lunch just a little bit ago, but they're the ones that are hearing that. And these are also on occasions presenting in pregnancy centers as well.
Yes. Yeah. So we get most of our information from the people that are working on the front lines, as I call them, those that are in the trenches with the abortion-minded families, the patients and their families. They hear the horror stories from the people that have either gone in those facilities and changed their minds, or had an abortion experience and are now coming for help, either with abortion pill reversal or, healing after an abortion. They hear stories from these women, and a lot of times they go, that doesn't sound right. Like it's almost like a check in your gut that something about that doesn't sound right. Occasionally the violations are so egregious, like this case in Florida where a woman is running out screaming, "Call 911," and afraid for her life. But a lot of these cases are these women were not properly and didn't receive proper informed consent. Do they really understand what they were signing up for? Usually no, especially with abortion pills. They are not told how violent and painful and hurtful the abortion pill process is. Oh, you'll be fine. You'll go home. They are not being properly consented. They either change. We've had people change their mind in the process, and the abortionist say it's too late. Mm-hmm. It's too late.
We've heard that at the
right. That is sure. That is not ethical. You can rescind your consent at any point. A common one we're hearing now is abortionists putting multiple women in a room and handing them all the pill at the same time. That is unethical. And so those
and a HIPAA violation.
And a HIPAA violation, right? But according to the abortion industry, shouldn't the decision be between a private decision be between a woman and a physician? Certainly. But you're putting 10 women in this room and giving them all the abortion pill at the same time. So we are coming alongside sidewalk advocates and pregnancy center team members who are hearing this information and they don't know what to do with it.
So that by hearing it, they're hearing it like it just happened.
Yeah.
We know, working in the pregnancy help world, that we're often walking with people through a season of healing, through their regret after abortion. But those experiences are usually years, at least until recently, those are usually years old, maybe decades old. Mm-hmm. But you're talking about really dealing with almost active intel, where this practice, we know for a fact this practice is happening right now at the abortion clinic. And if it just affected the woman that we just talked to, it's likely affecting the woman that's in there now.
Right.
Those are the types of things that you probably have the greatest footing to respond to, or at least to look into further. Mm-hmm. So that's really the kind of the call that you're wanting to receive as well. Yes. And of course, you have hundreds, thousands of people who are helping you?
Eventually, the goal, one day, maybe. We do have a small team of researchers that take every case and we look and see, okay, was there a violation? What are the state laws? Was there a violation? Who is responsible? Because
that's going to vary, because we have 50. There's going to have 50 states plus the whatever we call DC, the District of Columbia, right? So that's 51 actually different governing authorities, yes. And then within that, even within each state, it could be in the Department of Health. It could be a separate issue altogether. And so you have to really chase down a lot of information.
Yes, we do. And that's why what we do is so important, because what we want to happen is we want the sidewalk counselors to get back to sidewalk counseling. We want the pregnancy centers to get back to helping abortion-minded women. Let us do the digging through legal code and agents, bureaucracy. My husband jokes and says I read red tape for a living. And that's really true. We spend the time identifying, okay, we have this information. How can we make it actionable? How can we use it to advocate for this patient and also interrupt or close the abortion business altogether? And so who is responsible for this oversight?
So you just need that key actionable intel. So when something arises in the pregnancy center, for instance, or with the sidewalk counselors, you need them to relay that to you as soon as possible. So how best can someone do that?
We have an email, info@reprotection.org, and those all come to me. We read through them and I assign them to one of our research cases. We also have on our website a take action page that has a form that you can fill out if you want to report a violation. And I want to be clear that we handle these cases very carefully. We put the health of the client, the relationship that you have with the client, the privacy. We do not publicize any information. We know that these women have just been through a traumatic experience, and we never want to put them in a position that would either hinder their healing or be more painful for them. And so we are going to handle each case and let you lead as the pregnancy center contact, let you lead with the patient and how much they feel comfortable being involved.
So that's a very safe place for the pregnancy center to be. And knowing that you're there and your team, your small but mighty team are trying to make things happen, and walking with them and with her with the sensitivity that we all carry of her
Right.
confidentiality, really
Right.
fulfilling her desire. It's not so much about what we want or
Right.
what we want to happen to the abortion clinic. It's really about her and what she wants. And you've encountered the women that are
Yeah.
so upset and so bothered. They know that they were
Yeah.
wronged.
They
and
want justice.
Thank you. They want something to
justice.
happen.
Yeah.
They want justice. And so you're there to help them.
Mhm.
And in the process, providing a great service to pregnancy centers and sidewalk
Yeah.
advocates. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine reading red tape for a living. But I'm grateful, Missy, that you and your team are doing that.
Yeah.
One last thought for our pregnancy help community.
Mhm. Any information, even if it's old, you referred to, you have cases that might be a long time ago. We want to build really solid cases. And so even if it is historical information, when we have a case and we call you, we want to hear the whole story. We need to get every ounce of information we can to build those cases. And so we are listening ears. We are a sponge. We want to take it and look through it. And then we will just come alongside you. We file the complaints and then we do the follow through, and we don't let go until we get the answer that we want. And sometimes that takes a while. I mean, we have cases that are going on a few years now, but we have not let them go. And we are going to keep fighting until we get the...
Yeah, that only makes sense because you're often
Yeah.
dealing with government
Right.
agencies and bureaucracies, which by itself is a grinding process, just even of knowing who the right person to talk to.
Yeah.
Well, Missy, I'm grateful that for you guys. I'm grateful
Yeah.
for you kind of leading this effort. So appreciative of Kathy and others who have kind of walked this path. It's a great service for the pregnancy help community and for the pro-life movement in general. And frankly, for women who really deserve to be loved and supported in their pregnancy and not taken advantage of like the abortion industry is inclined to do.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything.
Yeah, you're welcome.
God bless you.
Well, thanks, Missy, for joining us. And we're so glad you'll be at our Jacksonville conference at the end of the month. Be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to learn more about our annual conference, visit heartbeatservices.org. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Pregnancy Help Podcast.